moment that is months in the making. If you're watching right now, it's likely you're one of the millions of people looking for answers, guidance, and relief from the punishing market activity we've experienced recently. I'm happy to say you're about to get all of that and then some. In fact, you're going to walk away from this event with a financial lifeline that could essentially erase months of heartache, losses, and fear to usher in a wave of potential wealth that is so powerful it could save your retirement. It's called the perfect stock. And in the next hour, you're going to hear why this could be the last investment strategy you ever need to make up to 5 times your money, starting before the end of this year. If that sounds too good to be true, don't worry. You're going to get all the details, see all the evidence, and get 4 free actionable recommendations by the time we're through. It all comes back to an extraordinary new market prediction that could trigger potential windfall profits if you know what's coming and how to play it, all while devastating those who remain in the dark. I'll explain what all that means in a second, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. First, I'd like to introduce you to the 2 fine people sharing the stage with me today. First up is our host and moderator, Amy Gamper. She's incredibly sharp and will keep us on track when necessary. So I'm thrilled to have her with us. Thanks for being here, Amy.
My pleasure. I've spent the past few years almost exclusively investigating the most important stories and discoveries in the investment world, yours included, Mark. But I haven't heard about the perfect stock anywhere yet, so I can't wait to learn all about it.
Thanks, Amy, but before I hand the reins to you here, I want to personally welcome the final guest at our table today, Professor and Forensic Accountant Joel Litman. Over the past 30 years, Joel's groundbreaking work in the science of accounting has attracted an elite roster of private clients that includes the top 10 global investment houses and more than half of the world's 300 biggest money managers. And for anyone out there who may think that accounting is dry and dull, please know that some of these clients have paid up to $100,000 a month for Joel's unique and highly lucrative style of accounting, which is very different than anything you'd see in a corporate setting. Folks, candidly, Joel is really the reason we're here today, because when you see what this man can do, you'll understand why I tapped him to speak to the hundreds of thousands of people who follow my work, and anyone else who's even partially relying on the stock market for their retirement. Joel, I know you've been invited to lecture at Harvard, MIT, Wharton, the London School of Economics, and even the Pentagon to share your findings and predictions. I appreciate you taking the time.
Of course, of course. I'm honored to share the stage with such a titan of our industry. I wouldn't miss it. And just to be clear, while I do regularly speak at those institutions, I haven't shared this discovery with anyone else yet. Not the Pentagon, not Harvard or Wharton. Maybe they're tuned in right now, but they'll hear this in real time while everyone else is watching.
That's actually a great place for us to start, Joel. I assume it was intentional that you haven't taken this story public yet?
Look, I've worked with these federal and educational institutions for decades. These are the 1%ers with almost unlimited resources, inside knowledge, and advantages. They can afford to pay tens of thousands of dollars for what we do at my firm. They're simply not who needs our help right now. Ultimately, what Marc and I are revealing for the first time today is designed for regular people, managing their own money and trying to build and maintain the financial freedom they always planned in the face of the big crashes we've seen in recent months.
Well, I think you're reaching those folks just in time, because that lifestyle, those classic goals of retiring early, buying that dream car or vacation home, even just achieving financial security are feeling more and more out of reach right now. Inflation has hovered around record highs for months. The price of gas has grown more expensive than ever before in history, all while grocery and rent costs are breaking every record we've seen since the 1970s and 80s. The economy is shrinking, interest rates are rising, and of course, we've seen that all reflected in the stock market, triggering the worst sell-off we've seen in 50 years. Now, I realize these facts and figures may sound dramatic, but you can see the original sourcing for yourself on our disclaimers and disclosures page, linked at the bottom of your screen. My point is, it feels like everyone has lost money this year. So I'll ask up front, can people even really afford to be in stocks right now, even if they're perfect?
Amy, I'd argue that if you're over the age of 50, you can't afford not to be in stocks.
Because of inflation?
If the recent rate of inflation were to hold, which keeping in mind is a record-breaking high, every $100,000 in cash in your retirement account would be decimated to $42,000 in just the next 10 years. And $1 million nest egg would get slashed by more than half in that same time.
That would spell complete disaster for millions of Americans.
Now, to be clear, we're not saying that level of inflation is likely to hold strong for the next decade. And we're not here to scare anyone. Most people are scared enough. We're here to provide a solution. So first, I want to address everyone watching at home. Everyone is worried about a financial crisis right now. So let me tell you up front, yes, we're witnessing the early innings of a crisis in the U.S. stock market. But it's not the kind of crisis everyone is writing about in the mainstream financial media. We're here to give you the real story no one else is telling. If you spent months feeling scared and paralyzed, if you've been losing money, if you've been afraid to even look at your retirement account, that ends right here, right now. After what we show you today, I predict you will not only never be blindsided by another major market move this year, but also have the chance to make a ton of money from what we're about to share with you for the very first time.
So speaking of a coming crisis, you have to acknowledge that the entire stock market feels like a minefield right now.
It's true. Every retiree or soon-to-be retiree in America is facing the same dilemma. Your cash is eroding faster than at any other point in the past 40 years. Gold is suffering its longest losing streak in 4 years. Bonds just entered their first bear market in 30 years. And the National Home Builders Association has already declared a recession in the housing market. Historically, being invested in stocks is the only good way to stay ahead of inflation. And you don't need a finance degree to know that. It's a fact. It's trying to put that fact into practice that's the real minefield here. 93% of stocks in the S&P 500 were deep in the red just a couple of months ago. So how do you avoid disaster moving forward? What exactly do you buy? And when exactly do you buy it for the best possible return when the future of U.S. stocks is so uncertain? That's the question Joel and I set out to answer.
And you found the perfect stock along the way.
The perfect stock is the answer.
So I guess my next question is, what is a perfect stock?
Well, Amy, the mechanics are fairly complicated, and what makes these stocks so unbelievably rare. So rare that we've only detected 133 perfect stocks ever. We'll get into all of those details in a moment, but the idea itself is exceptionally simple. A perfect stock is an extraordinary company bought at the exact right time for the highest potential gain with the lowest possible risk.
So essentially what every investor hopes for when they buy a stock. Well, it certainly sounds simple, but I'm sure it's easier said than done. Otherwise, everyone would be a stock market millionaire.
It's been quite the road to get here, that's for sure. And the result is not just a few singles or even doubles, but an entire system for pinpointing low risk, high reward, 3 to 5x winners, especially when stocks are on unstable ground